There's one question I ask in every single discovery call that tells me about 80% of what I need to know about someone's home buying readiness. And it's not what's your credit score, it's not how much do you make, it's not even how much do you have saved. It's a question that people have never thought about. When I ask it, I can usually tell within about 30 seconds whether someone is ready to buy now, needs a few months to prepare, or has been stuck in eventually mode for too long. Before I tell you the question, I need to explain why I ask it, because the question itself might seem simple, but the answer reveals everything. Most people who want to buy a home get stuck in what I call research mode. They're watching videos like this one, they're scrolling Zillow at night, they're reading articles about mortgage rates and housing markets, and they're telling themselves, I'm getting prepared, I'm being responsible, I'm doing my homework. And look, there's nothing wrong with being informed. That's smart. But here's what I've noticed after helping hundreds of families through this home process. Research mode can become a hiding place. It feels productive, but it's actually a way of avoiding the one thing that would give you real clarity, an actual conversation about your actual situation. Because here's the truth. You can watch 1,000 YouTube videos about credit scores, but until someone looks at your specific credit report, you don't actually know where you stand. You can read every article about down payment assistance, but until someone runs your specific numbers against the actual programs available, you're just guessing. So the question I ask, the one that reveals everything, is this. What would have to be true for you to feel ready to make the next step? That's it. Simple question, but the answer tells me a lot. Some people say, I need to know what I actually qualify for. That tells me they're ready. They just need someone to look at their situation and give them clarity. They've been stuck because they're afraid of being told no, not because they're actually not ready. Some people say, I need to have $20,000 saved. Well, that tells me that they have a specific number in their head, usually around 20% myth or some other outdated information. And once I show them the real numbers, their timeline might accelerate dramatically. Some people say, I need my credit to be better. That tells me we need to look at their actual credit and either confirm that they're right or show them that their credit might already be good enough. And if it's not, we can build a strategic plan to get it there. Some people say, I need to feel like I'm not making a huge mistake. That tells me that this isn't really about numbers at all. It's about confidence and trust. They need someone to walk them through the process step by step so it doesn't feel overwhelming. Some people say, I don't know. That's actually the most honest answer. And it tells me they've never had anyone sit down with them and actually help them figure out what ready means for their specific situation. Most people are operating on assumptions about what they need, assumptions about what they can afford, assumptions about how the process works. And those assumptions are usually based on things they heard from friends or read online or absorbed from their parents' generation when the rules were completely different. My job isn't to convince you to buy a house. My job is to replace assumptions with facts. Let me give you some examples of how this plays out in real conversations. I had a woman reach out to me who had been planning to buy for almost 4 years. When I asked her the question, she said, I'd need to have 10% down and a credit score over 700. So I asked her, where did those numbers come from? She didn't know. It was just what she thought she needed. We looked at her actual situation. She had about $12,000 saved and a credit score of 672. In her mind, she was years away. In reality, she qualified for an FHA loan and we closed on a house for her 45 days later. 4 years of waiting, 45 days to close once she actually knew where she stood. I had another guy who was convinced his self-employment income made him unqualifiable. He'd been told by his bank that self-employed borrowers were complicated and they couldn't help him. So he just assumed that was the answer everywhere. When I asked him the question, he said, I need to find a lender who actually understands self-employment. He'd already done the work. Strong income, solid savings, good credit. He just needed someone who knew how to document self-employment income properly. We got him approved in 3 weeks. I had a couple who answered the question with total honesty. We have no idea what we need. Every time we try to figure it out, we get overwhelmed and we give up. That's not a readiness problem, that's a clarity problem. They didn't need more time, they needed someone to sit down with them and make the process understandable. So we spent 45 minutes on a discovery call, no charge, no pressure, just walking through where they were and what their path looked like. By the end of the call, they had a clear picture, specific steps, a timeline they could actually follow. They went from overwhelmed and stuck to we know exactly what to do in less than an hour. So let me ask you the question right now. What would have to be true for you to feel ready to take the next step? Really think about it. I'll wait. Got your answer? Now let me tell you something important. Whatever you just said, there's a very good chance you're wrong about what you actually need. Not because you're bad at this, but because nobody has ever sat down with you and shown you what's actually required versus what you assume is required. That $20,000 you think you need might be $8,000 with the right loan product and assistance programs. That 700 credit score you think you need might be 620 or even lower depending on the loan type. That stable job for 2 years you think you need There are ways to qualify with less employment history if the rest of your picture is strong. Those closing costs you're terrified of might be covered by seller credits, lender credits, or assistance programs that you've never heard of. I'm not saying everyone is ready right now. Some people genuinely need time. Maybe you need 6 months to pay down some debt and boost your credit score. Maybe you need a year to build up reserves. Maybe you're in a job transition and we need to wait for stability. So here's what I want you to do. First, I want you to answer that question honestly for yourself. What would have to be true for you to feel ready? Write it down. Second, I want you to challenge your own answer. Where did that number or requirement come from? Is it based on something someone told you, or is it based on actually looking at your specific situation? Third, I want you to consider the possibility that you might be closer than you think. Not because I'm trying to sell you something, but because I've seen it happen over and over. People who thought they were years away, who were actually ready now, today. And fourth, if you want actual clarity, not guessing, not assumptions, but real answers based on your real situation, reach out to me by clicking the link below to schedule a no obligation introduction call with me. Let's have a conversation. I've done hundreds of these discovery calls and it takes about 15 minutes. By the end, you'll know exactly where you stand and exactly what your path looks like. Whether that's let's get started today, or here's your 6-month plan, or here's what needs to happen over the next year. Until then, stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.